Hello and a warm welcome back to the latest in our Sport for Business leadership interviews. I'm delighted to be joined by Dermot Rigley, who is the Commercial Director of Guinness PRO14 Rugby, and we're going to have a chat about the various different elements of the commercial side as well as the sporting side that have impacted on the tournament over the course of COVID-19. So first off, a very warm welcome to you, Dermot.
Thanks for having me on, Rob.
Absolute pleasure.
Hope you're keeping well and safe.
Indeed, yes. And you, how have you been finding it? How has the whole working from home business been in, obviously, an organisation that is so international in its scope?
Yeah, it's been. I have to say, it's worked out quite well. We are, as you say, we're in 5 countries. We're across obviously the UK, Ireland, Italy, and South Africa. So. Multi-jurisdiction is who we are. That's in our DNA. So we're well used to being apart. But I suppose I think it's worked out great. With some members of our team, we're probably speaking with them more often. And we would have as a leadership group, we would have daily calls, and certainly with all our own individual teams, we're talking with them on a daily basis. So I think it's certainly opened up all our eyes to the amount of traveling we're doing as well. And perhaps the how productive that is as well. So obviously you do need to meet people face to face, but it's been great. And I have to say thank goodness for the technology works. But we found it to be pretty good, and I think the team have been enjoying it as well. So everybody's set up at home, and once they have a bit of peace and quiet, they can get stuck into things. So it's been good from that side.
Very good. Easier, of course, to do things in a virtual and digital sense from the business point of view. Not quite so easy in terms of the action on the pitch. You were quite quick in terms of coming out and actually sort of postponing back the original date of the final in Cardiff Stadium. It was scheduled to be still a few weeks away, but you moved quickly to move that away. Is it going to be the case that Cardiff will come back on the cards now for 2021?
So we were bitterly disappointed, obviously, for Cardiff to get cancelled for this year. We had done a huge amount of work with the WRU, with Cardiff City Stadium, Wayne Nation there, with Cardiff Council, and tickets were selling pretty good, and we were really excited to get into Wales for our final. So it was a travesty in some sense that we didn't get to do that. Every time we look at a final, Rob, it's obviously down to availability for stadiums, because in the summertime you've got concerts, you've got various events on as well. And I say summertime, our final, as you may recall, from this season we moved into towards the end of June. It was supposed to be June 20th. So there's a lot else going on, a lot of other things going on around that time as well. So we have to compete with. So we're looking at all our options for next year, definitely. And what we would normally do is we would engage each city and the tourism boards to see what is the most compelling offer for us to go with. So, but look, take it. We definitely want to get back to Cardiff without a shadow of a doubt and get back into Wales. For us, though, when we did cancel, you have to remember, obviously, the teams that play in our league, namely the Italians, and we saw what went on there from a COVID-19 perspective. So we already had paused games. From an Irish perspective, you may recall the Ireland-Italy Six Nations game was cancelled as well. So a lot was impacting us quite directly, because obviously our teams are both involved with that particular fixture, and our clubs would supply the players. So it was definitely on our radar that we needed to move quite quickly, and obviously. From a safety perspective, players, match officials, fans, production staff with the broadcasters. So we moved pretty quickly. If I recall, I think it was on the 11th or 12th of March, the NBA suspended. I think La Liga suspended then as well. And then we moved quite quickly, and we have a great board who can make quick decisions, and we went through it with them, and we decided to take a lead, so to speak.
We're all of us at this point in time. We're all of us looking for that little bit of security as to what's going to happen next. And it's almost impossible to nail down particular dates and things like that. You published a set of very specific criteria where it came to each of the jurisdictions that you're operating across. Where are you at the moment in terms of how quickly or slowly some of the countries are moving in terms of being able to get at least an element of the tournament finished off in 2020?
Yeah, so no, you're right on the criteria. So on the tournament operation side of the business, so David Jordan and Charles Krause, they've been doing a huge amount of work working with our other leagues, with EPCR, and very close with World Rugby. And the criteria obviously is that the health authorities in each jurisdiction obviously had to allow resumption of sport, travel restrictions were eased, isolation quarantine orders had to be considered as well, and obviously player welfare. So those guys did a huge amount of work on that. And if you actually look at the World Rugby return to play protocols this week, our guideline documents are actually in that. So that is obviously the $1 million question, when we're going to come back. So we've been working on scenario planning on this, Rob, since we suspended. Obviously working very closely with our broadcasters and our own sponsors on this. So you may have seen, obviously, the Irish government gave some direction on this for rugby to return in August. So obviously our unions are liaising with them, the Irish government, from how that impacts from an elite rugby perspective. So the ambition is to get back this summer without a shadow of a doubt and get this season concluded. And we are looking at modelling how that works. So I would nearly ignore everything you're seeing in the press. There's a lot of information, a lot of headlines out there, but reality is that we have to make sure it's right and it's safe for everybody involved. And that's what we're working on. But we want to get back, and we want to get back when it's right. So we're working on that right as we speak, and hopefully we'll have some news on that in the coming week or so. So that's the plan. We definitely need to try and get the season finished if we can.
Okay, I want to move on to just have a chat about some of the commercial stuff, obviously impacted by that. But just before we leave the rugby playing side of it, there has been a lot of talk from World Rugby and across the different unions about this sense of collaboration, because obviously it's a narrowing window towards the end of this year now in terms of club and international, and obviously with health and safety first and foremost in mind. Has that sense of collaboration really sort of filtered through? You mentioned there the fact that your tournament protocols are included in the World Rugby ones. Is there a real sense of togetherness that the sort of, the international game, the club game, everybody is trying their best to actually keep everybody on side with this?
Yeah, I think this will only work with true collaboration, and that's what's been happening. So I think everything's been impacted. So it's happening from league level to international level. So absolutely, we work very closely with our unions, first of all, who are obviously our board members. We work very close with World Rugby, work very closely with EPCR, and to ensure, obviously, we're fully in sync. So when everybody has an opportunity to return to play, that all the various leagues, whether it's EPCR, whether it's us, whether it's Six Nations, whether it's some of the tours, all have a place in there. So without proper collaboration, the schedule wouldn't be able to work. So as I say, that is the kind of Trojan work going on from the tournament and operations side of the fence, and I think hopefully we'll have some answers on that shortly, how that's going to look. But absolutely, like, collaboration is key, Rob, just to emphasize that this wouldn't happen without that. So because there's so many moving parts here. We've also got the added dilemma from a Pro14 perspective, that is we are multi-territory, so different governments make different decisions on how that impacts and how we actually get a return to play. So it's but it's quite fluid, but it's been a very good process, and I think everybody's been working really closely together. So it's been very good from that perspective.
Okay. It's 25 years this year since rugby turned professional, and the commercial side of it has obviously grown enormously. You've been a big part of that. You had an awful lot of stuff that was going on in advance of where we are now at the moment. What's the pandemic done in terms of knocking you sideways or allowing time for some of these things to develop? You've been involved in launching your own OTT platform. You've launched new digital platforms and things like that out there. But where are you with regards to the commercial side of Pro14 as it stands at the minute?
Yeah, so it's a really exciting time for us commercially, and it has been in the near 3.5 years I've been in this organization. It's been quite fast moving. In that short space of time, we did record-breaking broadcast deals. We did a great deal with ESPN to get Pro14 on that in the States. As you said, we launched an OTT service, which was one of the first in rugby in the world. And that opportunity allowed us to get into every market. So it's an OTT service that gets into every country, whether we have a deal or not. Obviously, with our international deals, they would have the live rights, but we would still be there with some other shoulder content as well. And then other markets, which are called dark markets, where we haven't done deals, Rob, we would have our OTT service directly in. So, and then obviously with the expansion to South Africa, there's been a huge amount done in a very short space of time within this tournament. So what the pandemic has allowed us to do, which is great, is really review everything we're doing. And I mean that, and every member of our team has absolutely got the head down and looking at it from a strategic perspective, how we go about our business, and how could we provide, I suppose, better opportunities for brands to really collaborate and work with us. So some of the things which we were doing pre-pandemic, which has been working, is what we call a Rugby in Union package. So it's been pretty exciting, and it's an opportunity for brands to get across all professional club rugby across the UK and Ireland. And that's an opportunity to be a partner with EPCR, Heineken Champions Cup, an opportunity with Guinness PRO14, an opportunity then with Gallagher Premiership as well. So in one deal, Rob, you can actually have a brand that will appear across all that professional club rugby, and that's pretty compelling. And we've had a lot of focus on that and what we're doing, and we're having pretty interesting conversations in that department at the moment. But it's definitely it feels like it's cleaning up a lot of what's going on in rugby, because we're in a very, I suppose, small pool where we've got leagues who play, clubs that play in two different things, whether it's Guinness Pro14 or EPCR, or same with the Gallagher Premiership or EPCR. So I suppose from a fan's perspective, sometimes your brands have changed between those. So I suppose from a sponsor perspective, it definitely it gets more cut through, and allows them permanently be with those fans. However we change from league to league or tournament to tournament. So that's been pretty exciting. And that is
tell me something. Does that work with does that work across with the clubs as well? So the clubs are bought into this, because obviously across the tournaments, well, you've got Heineken on one side and Guinness on the other side, so there can't be exclusivity in there. But is that something that you've been bringing the clubs along with, so that they can actually benefit from this more integrated approach to sponsorship as well?
Yeah, and I think, from a detail perspective, we work within our own assets effectively. So it's within the Guinness Pro14, EPCR would work within their own assets. And what you have, Rob, between a tournament and a club is the participation agreement. It's very clearly defined. This is the assets they can deploy and use and leverage, and then what the tournament can use. So we still work within those confines. So absolutely, and it'd be a big benefit for all of us, obviously, to have, I suppose, a more uniformed approach. And obviously the clubs obviously benefit from that, because the more deals we obviously all do centrally, obviously the clubs benefit from a distribution perspective on the revenue side as well. But this is also, I suppose, opened up an opportunity as well for us, looking at the TV market as well. So you mentioned OTT, and I suppose we have an opportunity there if we ever need to go direct. And we had that last time when we did the last TV deal as well. But the way we've consolidated and I suppose made it as easy as possible for brands, we are looking at that with our media partners at the moment, our broadcast partners. So there may be an opportunity, for example, within the Irish marketplace, as an example, to have EPCR and Pro14 all on one platform, and then we would lead by doing that deal. So there's great opportunities here across the board, and we're looking at all scenarios as well, because we listen to the fans. You'd always get feedback about how many platforms different tournaments are on, and brands say the same thing. So I suppose making this more synced up and more joined up ultimately for brands, I think it's better for everybody. So lots of exciting stuff going on in the background.
Yeah, whereabouts are you in terms of that broadcast cycle now at the moment? Because as it stands at the moment, you've got exclusive with Premier Sport in Scotland and Wales and England, Air Sport here with a bit of TG Cahir and a bit of other channels over the UK side. But that runs through to the end of next year's campaign. Is that right?
That's right, Rob. So we've got one more year left in the TV deal. So we've got, and just to emphasize, we have fantastic partners, and all the broadcasters have really helped us elevate the Pro 14 up to where it needs to be. Since like in the new TV deal on the UK side, we've got Premier, as you've mentioned. We've also then got S4C, and then we've also now got BBC doing weekly highlights as well. So we've got great coverage in the UK and great partners. And Premier, since they've come in and would be the newest entrant out of that trio in the UK, have done a fantastic amount of work. They're broadcasting every single game live, which was unprecedented. We've never had that before, which is allow whichever club you support, you're guaranteed to see your game live on air. And that also helps us from an international distribution perspective, that when we're selling those rights on, Rob, to any other territory, now it's easier for broadcasters. They can go, well, actually, we can get every game. And it's just it's an easier package, I suppose, for them to buy into. We've obviously got the Zone in Italy as well. I mentioned ESPN in the States, and then from an Irish perspective, we've got Air, as you've said, and we've got TG Cahir here as well. So, and they've done fantastic work as well. They all, by the way, I suppose just to say, they also collaborate quite well behind the scenes. Broadcasters, they share content and they share talent, and we've seen that throughout. And likes of TG Cahir, by the way, just within the Irish marketplace, have done incredible work breaking the mold in terms of some innovation you may see pre-match and during the match, when they've mic'd up coaches and players beforehand in warm-ups, just to hear what they're thinking about, what they're working on. And that's great. That's great from a fan's perspective again. So obviously just trying to improve the product. So where we are, we've got great partners, as I've said, and we've got another year left. So the real focus for us is what we do next to get the season concluded. That's what we want to work on. And then absolutely, the next step is talking about the TV cycle, which is beyond 21. Clearly, without in the absence of COVID-19, we would definitely be already probably in that space at the moment. But as I said, there's an exciting opportunity here potentially for, as I say, to broadcast partners to look across both the Guinness PRO14 and Heineken Champions Cup in one deal. So that's what we're looking at. And we're also looking with Gallagher Premiership. There's an opportunity there as well. But we're looking at there's a lot of modelling going on in the background, and we're going to, I suppose, do what's best for rugby in that sense. So.
Okay. The fans will probably appreciate that sort of consolidation of of coverage if that's what it comes to. Over the course of the last few weeks, you've been quite out there in terms of providing digital content as well. We published the Irish Sport and Social Media report that we do each month, and in April of this year versus April of last year, there was actually an increase in the amount of engagement from fans. So you went live just at the beginning of March, I think it was, with the new platform. How was that gone? It's under a fair bit of pressure then to bed in quite quickly, given the fact that there's no live action, but you've got plenty of content that you've been putting out there.
Yeah, it's definitely, I suppose, we've all got over the hump in the absence of live, how effective is content, and we get that cut through. So, and in fairness to the content team, they have done Trojan work again, sterling work, to engage with our fans, and this has been twofold. So from a commercial perspective, we wanted to ensure that we were able to deliver in the absence of the live, tangible in-bowl experience. We wanted to ensure we were still connecting with our fans from all our partners, from Guinness, from Air, from Ron Seal, Gilbert, Big Red Cloud, you name it, all our partners, we wanted to make sure we were getting content out there. And that's what the content team will be working on with the commercial team over the last few weeks. And you're absolutely right. Some of the great work they've come up with has actually had near better results. Now, it isn't the absence of the real thing. So when you've got when you're starved for content, fans will come to you. But they've done some great work work with some of the players, and it was just anecdotally getting fans to engage. Nearly from a charity perspective, what would you do if a player responds to you, for example, and a fan might shave his hair and donate a certain amount of money to charity. You see Bundy Aki was engaged in some of that. So there's been some really great activity there, great content. So if you look at our Instagram, for example, page, there's a lot of really good content there, which is absolutely, I suppose, captured the imagination of our fans. But just to be frank, it really works from us from a commercial perspective, because we need to maintain that I suppose relationship with our fans. It's really important. These are the fans that spend hard-earned money coming to our games. They subscribe to our broadcast partners. So I suppose what we want to be doing is engaging them and giving as much back as we can during this time. And we are working on some initiatives at the moment in the background to maybe bring that up to another level with some partners. So I'll come back to you on that one, Rob. But we're hoping to, I suppose, continue through the digital sphere while we're still working out the return to play, how we can have that cut through with fans. So yeah, so it's, I suppose, digital has definitely come forefront about how we're doing our business currently.
Okay. And in terms of the that engagement between fans, teams, players, obviously in a regular season, you've got your Friday night, your Saturday afternoon, your Sunday. There's a clear path through which everybody can come together in a stadium in support of a particular game or anything like that. How have you found that, sort of creating your own schedule so that everything is just looser now at the moment? So there's no fixed points on the schedule, on the calendar. Have you been doing anything with some of the partners, with some of the teams, in terms of increasing that level of engagement that you've got as a tournament organizer with all of those different constituent parts?
Yeah, like it's we've been doing a lot of work, and I mentioned some of our partners already, like whether it's Guinness or Ron Seal, Big Red Cloud. We've been working with the content team, as I say, across whether it's Instagram or could be through the podcast we're doing with which is Under the Sticks. So I suppose the guys have a very clear schedule of when things go out Monday to Sunday, and I suppose it allows a fans a certain amount of appointment to view to come and see what we're up to. But I suppose the key thing is we've got a near always on approach to ensure we're delivering the right content to the right fans at the right time. It's absolutely I suppose compelled all rights holders globally to excuse the expression, think outside the box, because you're absolutely right. Without that fixed schedule on a Friday, the numerous kickoff times we have on a Saturday and on sometimes on a Sunday as well, what do we do in the absence of that? So but it is an opportunity, it's a great time. Like, the players are at home, everybody's there, no one's away. So if we can and we work quite closely with the clubs and players that are available at the moment to try and get that content out there. But it's it's got great support from our broadcast partners. It's got great support from our commercial partners as well. So it's I suppose this has been good. So in the absence of a real thing, I suppose we're major. We feel like we're going above and beyond to try and get the cut through there. So it's and as I say, we're working on a project at the moment, and we may have something that brings a bit more a sparkle, I suppose, to fans' appetite at the moment, and what they might be looking for.
Great. So we look forward to that. Yeah. So obviously, digital, you're working away on broadcast plans, in the longer term, but you're working away on those projects as well there. How the most important thing is always going to be getting the games back onto the field of play and into the stadia. How optimistic are you and the organisation around a return to anything like normal this side of 2021? Do you think that we might go down the route of behind closed doors, or do you think we adopt perhaps more the role of the GAA has said that, it's once the games come back in full contact sport, then we probably need to wait until we can get the fans back in as well. Is that something that is playing around in rugby terms, or do you think that we might see a staged return over the next couple of months?
Yeah, that's the sort of work we're doing and right now, Rob, from a modelling perspective. So I'm working with World Rugby, working with the CMOs, chief medical officers across every union, to make and working with the health authorities in every territory to make sure we get this right. So yes, we do see rugby coming back this year. The Irish government gave a date of the 10th of August. We're working with them on when the elite game actually comes back, which we're waiting confirmation on that at the moment. But we do see a return to play. How that looks is what you've asked, is the $1 million question. So social distancing, as long as that is as strict as it is now, obviously plays to how many people can get into a stadium. So and we're working on that. We're working on what numbers can get in from a safety perspective. But we all know this is a game, I suppose, of snakes and ladders, isn't it? So we want to make sure we do things in the right time, which is as safe as possible for all involved. So we want to make progress, and I suppose being in the business of major events, we don't want to have that down the snake potential as well by going too early. So I suppose we are in this unique position whereby there's other leagues already going now. So the Bundesliga is starting to move. I know that when Boris Johnson spoke yesterday, I believe there's going to be a bit more clarity on elite sports, I think, in the next 48 hours from the UK. So we also want to see what happens there as well, from our perspective, because we want to get this right. Because, but ultimately, the key thing is everybody wants sport back, and that's not just commercial perspective, broadcast partners and sponsors, the fans, and I suppose what we've all realised how important sport is, for all of us, for our head, for physically, and everybody wants it back in. So we want to get it, and we want to get it right. So that could be a combination of initially behind closed doors with limited crowds. But to answer your question, definitely we want to see rugby back this year. And that means finishing off this season and then starting next season as well. But there's a lot of moving parts here, and we want to get it right. The great thing is we have the benefit of time right now. It's still early May. And each territory has been quite it's going quite well on the medical side in Italy. It's going quite well from an Irish perspective, and the UK are getting a handle on it as well. So and South Africa a little bit different. So it's we should know hopefully in the next few weeks, Rob, is when we'll have a better idea on that. But definitely rugby in 2020 is our ambition, without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay, and obviously you'll be taking a close look. New Zealand are talking about bringing back on a local basis to actually have a sort of small scale tournament, limited venues and things like that. I guess the biggest challenge might come from one of the issues that has arisen out of travel between Britain and Ireland as well, is this idea of whether it would be possible, if you're bringing people in from another country, whether they would be able to actually sort of participate in something in a self-isolation mode. If everybody has to self-isolate for 14 days, it's going to make international travel as well as international competition very difficult. Do you feel, though, as there might be some potential for elite sport at least to actually sort of work around that, so that there's an isolation bubble on both sides of where the teams are coming from?
I think so. I think we're working on obviously clean venues. Testing is obviously the key point here. And how quickly you can get results back. And we've worked on the modelling that the tournament team have worked on is there's a bio-bubble scenario where it's an absolute clean venue where or a campus where no one leaves or comes in after a while. Then you've obviously got how it looks then per stadium. So there's lots of different scenarios getting looked at the moment. And you may have seen from the update from Boris Johnson yesterday and latterly from the UK government in terms of the lack of quarantine because of the common travel agreement between Ireland and the UK, how that plays into it as well. So we probably need a bit more clarity on that at the moment. And in fairness, our operations term team are working pretty closely with the governments and the unions on that at the moment. So I suppose we want to do it as safely as possible. So the World Rugby Return Protocol is definitely looking domestically or within territory first of all, and then across multi-territories as well. So yeah, so I think it's like definitely I think in the next few weeks we will have a bit more clarity on that. But it's the key thing is protecting the players, protecting the fans, and protecting the production staff and match officials that are in there. So, but once we can get all the criteria right, we want to get back as quick as possible. And I think you know, it's as I mentioned a moment ago, in the absence of sport, it really sits out like a sore thumb. We've seen what the GAF said, so we're looking at everybody, but we're also talking with a lot of other rights holders in the background as well. We're not all doing this in isolation, so it has to make sense for everybody. And as I say, we're in that unique scenario. It's not just I'm talking to you here in Ireland, Rob, but it obviously has to make sense within the UK, Italy, and South Africa for us. So we've got the extra dimensions there. But look, we're quite confident. Things are going in the right direction, it's the key thing is get the games back, and at least fans can watch it on air, and then obviously let's see how many fans we can get into stadiums as well, which from a safety perspective. So, but as I say, there's lots of modelling going on how that's going to look, pretty much the expression everyone is saying, we're leaving a lot of it to the science. It has to be right, and then we will make the decision to make a move then. So.
Okay, well, the very best of luck with that, with everything from the operations point of view in the longer term, with everything on the commercial point of view as well. It'll be interesting to watch how that develops. So the very best of luck with your thinking on it. We'll leave it with that optimistic note that hopefully we will get live sport back at the highest level this side of 2021. You're absolutely right. We've missed it. It's for our head, for our for our physical well-being, for the business of sport as well. We want to get it back as soon as possible when it's safe. So for the moment, anyway, stay safe yourself, and the best of luck to everybody else in Guinness PRO14 Rugby. Thanks very much, Dermot.
Okay, thanks, Rob.